Vikings fans, you are listening to the Purple People podcast. My name is Kyle West. I am accompanied by Adam Carlson.
Every week, in and out, I'm here.
And guess who we got with us this week? Kyle Smith. How are you, sir?
Welcome back.
Hello, everybody.
We are so glad to have you with us.
He's from an undisclosed location.
Other side of the world.
Yeah, it may be hot and sunny where I'm at, and you guys are in the middle of your night. I don't know.
But it's nice to have you here, even though you are not currently on American soil. But hey, gotta take a vacation sometime, right?
That's exactly what I'm doing. Having a blast. Ready to talk about some off-season Vikings football.
Yeah, so much excitement. Woo!
So much excitement that we got Tavares Jackson in the quick hits.
That's right.
You picked a great week to join us.
And the episode's named after him, too.
Yeah. Episode 191.
191 of the Purple People podcast. I keep thinking that we're inching closer and closer to that number 200. It's going to happen. 200 episodes. I can't believe we made 50. Honestly, I can't believe we made 10.
We're
But
fine.
191, we're rolling. This one's titled T-Jack City, and I know that anybody my age has watched the movie New Jack City.
I thought you were talking about New Jack, the wrestler.
No, the movie New Jack City, that's a classic right there. One you should definitely check out if you haven't seen.
Well, I feel like I get to take the first quick hit, because I kind of spoiled it already.
That's fair.
So we'll just dive into it feet first, or head first. Whichever dive you prefer. We're going to start with Tavares Jackson. Hey, former quarterback, Minnesota Vikings, expected to test the free agent market. What do you guys think? Sean Hill may not be coming back. Maybe T-Jack back in Minnesota?
Why do I have to correct you every time? It's not Tavares Jackson. It's Super Bowl champion Tavares Jackson.
Of course. How could we forget?
And he could bring that winning pedigree to the Vikings. He could show off that ring in the locker room. Say, hey, this is what you're fighting for.
Hey, Adrian, look what I have.
Ooh, no.
Oh,
No,
T-Jack.
honestly, I wouldn't be against it. I think, and this is my take on it. You jump right in. Hey, welcome back, guys. I'm just gonna jump in on the first quick hit.
Go at it.
I think if anybody's going to teach, besides Teddy, of course, but he's still in the learning curve, if anybody's going to teach Taylor Heineke a little bit about football, think about the guys that Tavares Jackson has played under in his last two tenures, Russell Wilson and Brett Favre. Pretty good minds to be picking around on. So I think it would be a cool move. But like I said, if he comes in for the right price and knowing his job, he's a career backup.
Yeah.
But I think he's an upgrade over Sean Hill.
We haven't heard anything about Sean Hill lately, but we've got the quarterback breakdown coming up that we're going to talk about the passers a lot here in a little bit. So we'll keep a little bit of that mystery up in the air. But U.S. Bank Stadium, something a lot of Vikings fans are looking forward to. It'll be the Vikings' home for the 2016 NFL season. A revolutionary stadium, in large part because of the interesting substance that they used on the roof that makes it so impervious to weather and also lets the sunlight come in and almost make it seem like it is an outdoor stadium. Well, it appears as though there are some copycats out there that are loving this technology.
Of course, I knew it.
The new stadium for the Los Angeles Rams had their blueprints given out, and they will be using the same kind of roof that the Minnesota Vikings will have in place.
We're trendsetters in Minnesota.
Of course, Minnesota got the idea from the Beijing Olympics, but hey, we're talking about NFL trends here, not worldwide trends. Still, it's amazing that this stadium is going to be the first football stadium to use that substance, and now it seems like it might be the standard in all state-of-the-art stadiums.
We're inching closer and closer and closer to the opening of U.S. Bank Stadium, and I'm super excited for it.
It's true. Definitely true. Fans in the Minnesota area up by Duluth, I know you don't get to see a lot of Minnesota Vikings action up there. This weekend, Polaris Vikings Winterfest. You are going to want to be there. There will be a lot of great events, a lot of Polaris vehicles up there if you want to ride a snowmobile around and check out how things are going. But you'll also have some Minnesota Vikings players and legends on hand, including Bud Grant, Chad Greenway, Victor the Viking, and the Minnesota Vikings cheerleaders.
Do you think Bud Grant will wear a coat?
That's a good question.
he might not.
You never know.
That's the $1 million question. You know what the $500,000 question is? Do you think we'll see Ragnar there?
Ooh.
Probably not.
If he is, he's going to have to buy a ticket, just like everybody else.
Hey, Adam, do you think the Vikings will use the franchise tag on Ragnar?
Probably the transition tag, just to move it on from him to someone else.
Okay.
But the Minnesota Vikings have the deadline here to use the franchise tag. The beginning date has started. The deadline hasn't been reached, of course, but teams can start tagging players if they want to. But I don't see a situation where Minnesota will have to use either one because they exercised the fifth-year option on both Matt Khalil and Harrison Smith, and any other player that if they were to tag, isn't worthy of that average price of the top 5 players at their positions. So I don't see it happening.
They've only used it. I believe they've only used it twice, correct?
And I don't think they've ever actually exercised it either. I think they used it as a placeholder for negotiation.
Yeah, it was on Chad Greenway and Jim Kleinsasser.
Did they use it on Jim? I don't remember that.
Yes, they used it on Jimmy Kleinsasser one time.
Nice.
And it's a very rare thing that Minnesota does either of those. So like you said, it probably won't happen this year.
There are occasions that it does happen. For example, Des Bryant. Now, star players will get that kind of treatment if they're struggling to work out a deal. There is rumor that Kirk Cousins in Washington might be given that kind of treatment, and he would be making a lot of money if they do. Good old Kirk Cousins.
Did you say that Harrison Smith...
You like that?
Yeah. But did you say, Adam, that Harrison Smith, they have to do a deal with him now, or do they have another year before they have to do one?
They exercised the fifth-year option, so he is under contract for this year. But I do expect both players to have a long-term deal worked out, or in Matt Khalil's case, if they're unable to work out a deal that meets both sides, he'll be released before the season because he has a big $11 million payday if they don't work something out and he stays on the roster. So I don't see that happening. So for him, it's either going to be a long-term deal or a release.
Wasn't he a 4th overall pick? So he's guaranteed a lot more money than Harrison Smith would. Yeah.
Yeah, Harrison Smith is going to get a deal this offseason, and he's going to make a lot of money.
We've been saying,
and it's going to make everybody happy.
We've been saying that he's been priority number 1 since the middle of last off-season. That this is going to be coming, and that's the big deal for Minnesota to take care of, and they will. It'll get done. I have faith that it will get done.
Both parties have already come out and said they're interested in getting it done. Now it's just sitting down and working out the numbers. Speaking of contracts, though, Mike Zimmer and the Minnesota Vikings could have an extension idea coming up soon, but when asked by ESPN about the situation, both Mike Zimmer and the Vikings said that they're in no rush to get a deal done. They're happy with the way things are going, and they'll take it as it goes. I believe Zimmer still has 2 more years of coaching under his belt, according to the current deal he's under. So there really is absolutely no rush.
I bet the last thing Mike Zimmer cares about is his contract.
Well, I'm sure he wants a contract.
Well, I mean, I'm sure he cares, but he's got an agent, and let the agent take care of it, and he's not going anywhere, and he's going to be with us for a long, long, long time in Minnesota.
Yeah, I don't see anything happening on that front this offseason. Possibly an extension after this season, but I totally agree. There's no rush in getting things done. And you can take this one if you want, Mr. West, because this is a fun one.
Oh, sure. Andrew Sendejo took his Valentine's Day date to McDonald's. Do we have any update on what they ordered?
In the picture, it looked like they both had a sandwich and some fries in front of them. I don't think anyone went for the salad. So.
No, for the salads or the McNuggets.
There might have been some McNuggets there. I didn't see them. But...
I was gonna make a Coming to America reference, but
McDowell's?
yeah, McDowell's. But other than you and possibly Kyle Smith, I don't know how many other people would get that.
Oh, come on. That movie's such a classic. I think everybody should have that one.
Classic movie.
Love that film.
That's one of the ones I can watch over and over and over again. But a
You
lot of
guys,
people not liking the fact that Sendejo took his date to McDonald's, called him cheap, calling him all these other
Oh
things.
my
And
God, really?
let's be honest, these
Come
are
on.
just regular people, and you know what? Maybe they like McDonald's.
Come on, internet. Yeah.
you got to appreciate the humor in that. I'm sure with him having an NFL salary and his girlfriend being his girlfriend, I'm sure he takes her to nice places. I thought it was hilarious.
Maybe they had a reservation, it got mixed up somewhere. You never know the situation.
Maybe it's entirely possible that they just don't like going out to fancy restaurants.
Or maybe this is a side woman and she isn't worthy of the real good food.
Yes, the truth comes out. You guys mind if I take the last quick hit?
Go for it,
Have
man.
at her.
I have a firm belief that strength of schedule plays a lot of factor into what kind of season you're going to have. Not as far as, well, we're going to finish 8-8, but to test a team. And this year, when I looked at the schedule, some weird way I got the wins and losses correct, but a lot of those losses I got them wrong. I want to kind of segue the Panthers into this quick hit. The Vikings have the 18th hardest strength of schedule next year, or this upcoming season, excuse me. So I looked at it and I was like, that's not too bad. It's definitely easier than the schedule we just had. I think we were top 10. So I want to segue the Panthers into this. If you play the bottom of the barrel the whole season, you're going to look great. Now, I'm not going to say that we're going to do that because we obviously have the Packers twice a year. I think Chicago will be better. I don't know about Detroit, but I wanted to throw the Panthers in there, kind of take a shot at it because I haven't talked to you guys since the Super Bowl happened.
Mhm.
Well, you have a team like Carolina, lost their best offensive player, minus Cam Newton, and they just dominated all year. And everybody was like, man, they got it figured out. I really believe that it was because of the opponents they played. And I'm not going to downside any of the teams in the NFL, but any given Sunday, we know any team can win. They lost to Atlanta. We beat the brakes off Atlanta. They beat the brakes off Atlanta 2 weeks prior. But I really, really, really believe strength of schedule has a lot to do with making teams look better or worse than they are. So I think us sitting with the 18th, I think it's pretty good, especially rocking a new stadium this year. And I'm not going to make the statement today. I'll make a bold statement later. But I think that new stadium and this strength of schedule, I think we're going to have a great year coming up.
I think a prime example of what you're talking about is the Houston Texans. They won their division, they made the playoffs, but along the way, they did not face a lot of tough competition. And what happened as soon as they got to the playoffs?
They got annihilated.
Absolutely demolished.
Mhm.
That's another one that we
sometimes,
talked
you
about
can look
before.
good, but
There's another one we talked about before. I know this is kind of off subject, but division winners. I do believe if you win your division, you should get in the playoffs. I mean, that's 6 games you've got to play, so every single year. But I don't believe that just because you win a division, you should automatically be in the top 4, like the Houston Texans. The only reasons that they made the playoffs is because Andrew Luck was down, let's be honest, and for the Indianapolis Colts. I don't think any team in that division is going to come close if Andrew Luck's healthy. But I digress. I like our position we're sitting at. I mean, I wouldn't complain if we had the easiest schedule in the league next year. But at the same time, I don't think that would be in true Mike Zimmer, Minnesota Viking fashion. I don't think he would be too happy about that.
I completely agree with you about the seeding. I think it should be the 4 division winners and the top 2 other records from the conference, and they should be put in the order of their records so that even division champions have to play a road game if they weren't as good. I agree with you totally on that. 100%.
Well, now that we got all off subject,
hey, we always get off subject. That's okay, whether we're talking about
said that earlier too,
or what.
We said that earlier too. I was like, no, this will be a quick episode. No, we're just gonna have Kyle Smith back, and he's gonna rant about everything.
We've missed
nice
your.
to have you back, though. We've missed you.
We missed your rants. We like your rants. The fans like your rants too.
They do, definitely, and we do as well. But we're here to talk about quarterbacks this week. We're going to be going through all of the positions. Of course, we're going to start with the premier position, which includes the quarterbacks. I know that some people might not like it, but Teddy Bridgewater will be back under center next season.
Oh, if you don't like that, leave. Just leave right now. Just go. Just go. We don't want your
I'm
negative.
with
We don't want your
I'm with Kyle.
negativity.
I'm with Kyle West 100%. You know, we had to endure Christian Ponder for however many years. We had to endure the start of Donovan McNabb. I would never buy either one of their jerseys, but if they're going to be throwing the ball around for us, I mean, you gotta support them.
And so Teddy Bridgewater is going to be the man. He's going to be moving indoors. Uh, Rick Spielman has already said that he expects Teddy Bridgewater to grow and develop a little bit more and have a better season indoors than he did when he was outdoors at TCF Bank Stadium. Uh, I think that could play a factor. I don't know how much of a factor, but we'll see. But I think the big thing that we need to remember is that this will only be the 2016 season will only be Teddy Bridgewater's second full year as a starter, because as you remember, he wasn't supposed to be a starter his rookie season. He was supposed to sit and learn behind Matt Castle, who right now
Oops.
I believe his future is up in the air. Matt Castle. I
He'll be
don't know what their plan is for him.
He'll be in Cleveland.
You never know.
That's where they all end up. They all end up in Cleveland.
But Teddy Bridgewater's taking time. He's getting his completions up. This offseason, he's supposed to be working on his throwing motion, which I believe could help him push the ball down the field. He's already got a lot of accuracy. He's patient in the pocket when it's there. He's been shown to have elusiveness and speed. People that are kind of on him about his tendency to scramble out of the pocket don't really understand the kind of fear that he had with just being rushed from every single angle.
Mm-hmm. There's three, actually, I think, really important things that need to happen this offseason for Teddy to continue to progress. And I think two of them are for sure going to happen. The third one should probably happen as well, too. Moving indoors I think, will benefit Teddy quite a bit. Secondly, getting just better protection from the line up front, whether that's through the draft or free agency or just coming back more healthy, that will help him out a lot as well too. And then shake up at the wide receiver position. I believe that they will draft a wide receiver early. It's no, you guys know what we think about Mike Wallace. I think that he'll probably be gone. So you'll get someone who fits the system better, works with Teddy better, and just having another year under the belt. I expect a continuation of good things from Teddy Bridgewater here in Minnesota.
I 100% agree. I think more so, and I'm not discrediting the wide receiver comment. I do think we'll take one. I do think Mike Wallace will be gone, but you see that Teddy can give the ball to literally anyone.
Mm-hmm.
He's got the completion percentage to prove it. I think it's going to be the line that needs to be looked at the most. I've had a couple of weeks to sit around and be bored because we have no football. The number one thing that I kept thinking about was his protection, and I think that's like grade A top priority over anything coming up in this draft. That's just my
The rumor that's going
opinion.
around from Ben Gosling on ESPN is that one of either Matt Khalil or Phil Lodeholt won't be back with the team this year. So we could see an offensive tackle being selected high if that's the case.
That would be
There are some good ones
interesting.
in this draft. There are.
That's a damn good social media question right there. If one has to go, I know the fans are going to say Matt Khalil. Who did you have to let go of if you have to let go of one of those two guys?
Phil Lodeholt coming off that Achilles injury, that's a scary one for a right tackle. You got to have that power to go down and do things, and
Yeah,
if
and
you can't use your foot the way you used to be able to get that power and explode off of it, it's not a good sign.
and TJ Clemmings did play well enough that you could hope that he would learn and progress and plug him in.
He had a couple decent games, he did,
Mhm.
but overall he struggled. But he was a rookie, forced into a position that he wasn't ready for. Much like we explained with Teddy Bridgewater, you got to have that kind of Forgot I was gonna say there, but yeah, you got to be ready to play no matter what. When someone goes down, someone has to step in, and
And
that kind of depth is important for a team,
this is
even if it's a guy that isn't ready.
This is funny, Adam. In typical Purple People podcast fashion, we started with quarterbacks and we very quickly went to the offensive line because they really do, guys. They go hand in hand
They do.
so very much. To have a successful quarterback, you have to be solid at the line up front because if you're not, it doesn't matter who you have back there.
And the prime example of this is when you were seeing the Denver Broncos and the New England Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
The Patriots have a decent offensive line. They're not good, but they were decent. But when they faced a pass rush as dynamic as Denver's, it just got picked apart. And Minnesota Vikings need to build up their line so that they can have time for their passer. Because whether or not people want to accept it, Teddy Bridgewater is going to be back there for a while. And he's going to need time. He's going to be able to develop the ball in a clean path or to be able to hand off the ball to Adrian Peterson and have the blockers in front do work. It's got to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So behind Teddy
Couldn't be
Bridgewater,
more on the money.
behind Teddy Bridgewater, we got some question marks though. We got the aging Sean Hill. We're not sure what's going on there. As of now, we're anticipating that he will be back for the 2016 season.
Are you? Because I'm not.
That's the current anticipation, is that he will be back.
Jeez, I really don't think he will be.
No?
No,
Any reasoning or just a gut feeling?
just a gut feeling that like I don't when Teddy got knocked out and Sean Hill had to step in, it was gone. It was over with.
It's pretty brutal.
Yeah, he's done. Whatever happened in the preseason that we were going, yeah, I believe in Sean Hill a little bit. Boy, that was a flash in the pan fluke. I just don't, in good faith, if something happens with Teddy, you can't rely on him to step in. And so I don't, it's not a smart business decision, if you want to call it that, for the Vikings to keep him around as the backup quarterback. If you want to drag it out and keep him around through training camp and some of your cuts in preseason, sure, but I really believe that you got to go with the guy that we're going to get to in just a second, Taylor Heineke, underneath him, or potentially bringing in maybe another veteran, free agent quarterback.
So if they're keeping Sean Hill on just for a mentor,
Mhm.
what if just Heineke jumped him on the depth chart?
That would be a scenario that would make sense, I guess. You could go with.
Yeah, because there's quite a bit that can
You know,
go
I'm
on
not.
here. There are a lot of veteran free agents out there. There are a lot of options for the Vikings as far as guys to bring in, but they want that veteran presence. We saw that because we thought that the Vikings were going to go with two quarterbacks last year. I believe all three of us thought that on the main roster there would only be two quarterbacks, and they ended up keeping Heineke after an impressive preseason. So I don't see the Vikings keeping two quarterbacks again this year. So if you're going to have three, at what point does Heineke become that guy that you can rely on?
Mm-hmm.
And at what point does Teddy Bridgewater no longer need the mentor veteran? Those are the tough questions to ask in this situation. Finally, we do have Taylor Heineke, who, as I said, had that impressive preseason at times. He took some crazy bumps, got back up, showed some toughness. Right now, he's that kind of potential player that you'd like to see, although we never really got a chance to see what he could do against real competition, against number ones. And honestly, I'd like to see that maybe in the preseason, instead of giving Sean Hill the reps as the number two, maybe give Heineke some reps at number two so he's facing some tougher competition, just to get a little bit better feel of who he is, what he has for the team. And because we've seen in the past too many quarterbacks that were kind of impressive, but never really got the chance to figure out if they could step it up. And I think that Heineke deserves that chance. I like what I see from the kid. I'm not ready to crown him quarterback 2 or anything like that right now, but I am optimistic about him, and I feel like he really does have a place on this roster.
He has a lot of potential. I I like the potential that he has. Hoping to see more growth from him in, preseason and camp and whatever. But I think the ultimate overall plan for him is to develop him into maybe kind of like a long-term number two backup behind Teddy Bridgewater. And like you said, Adam, it comes into one of those situations of at what point with Teddy does he no longer need the, veteran backup mentor in Sean Hill? That's a little tougher to answer because, you look at what other teams do, and you even have teams like Indianapolis who got Andrew Luck, and they still feel the need to have Matt Hasselbeck underneath him. So, I mean, which way do you go with it? It's a tough call.
It definitely is. There will be some interesting conversation about the quarterback position, but in the end, it might turn out that absolutely nothing happens with it.
Yeah.
So who knows? That's the thing about football is one day it could be one way, and the next day it might not be. And who knows? Maybe a big name like RG3 will come over. You never know.
Oh, that would be absolutely insane.
Have an RG3 backup Teddy Bridgewater.
There are fans who want that. I've seen
I'll be
that.
honest. I hate situations like that where you have any sort of real quarterback controversy potential. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I firmly believe that the Minnesota Vikings have all their chips in on Teddy Bridgewater, and even though I would love a younger, I guess, because RG3 isn't exactly a spring chicken anymore, but a younger quarterback behind Teddy Bridgewater is something that I wouldn't really care for at all. It's either got to be a veteran or a guy that is a clear number two.
Mm-hmm.
And even though in my mind RG3 would be a clear number two, it wouldn't be that clear to a lot of other fans.
Oh, you'd have a lot of pundits and fans on TV or whatever that would be talking about controversy.
You'd only have those Teddy Bridgewater haters jumping out even more, be like, why is he still starting? I could hear it now.
Yep, as soon as he throws an interception. RG3.
Tim Tebow.
Maybe T-Jack, you never know. You never know. So next weekend, not this coming weekend, of course I'm talking about Friday, February 26th through Monday, February 29th will be the 2016 NFL Scouting Combine, where they're going to take a look at all the college players, get all their measurables, have the 40 and the high jump and the press and all that kind of stuff. We'll get all those numbers. Teams will do interviews. This is really one of the first steps on the path to the draft, so it's exciting that this is so close because it means that the off-season is moving along.
I love me the Scouting Combine. I try to watch every bit of it that I possibly can, and I have a player for you guys to watch that I think, potential for Minnesota. I'm a believer that we will go wide receiver in the first round.
I thought you said believer.
Yes.
I could be that too. You never know what I do with my free
You might
time,
be.
Adam. Tyler Boyd, wide receiver from Pittsburgh. He's a guy that could be on the board when Minnesota goes to draft. And he is a guy that I believe would actually fit really well with Teddy Bridgewater because he's more of a possession type receiver. He is not going to be a down the field, burn you with his speed kind of guy, but that's really not Teddy's game. He is.
No, the Vikings already have enough burners. They need that guy that can win a contested jump ball, a big-bodied guy that can muscle out defenders. That's what they need.
And one of his knocks, though, believe it or not, is that he's not physical enough, he's not big enough, or he's not physical enough. That's one of those things that you can put him in the weight room, you can get him a little bigger, but the physical thing, you can kind of teach, and having a coach like Mike Zimmer, you can correct things like that within him. So
Zimmer doesn't let his players be soft.
Yeah, that's for sure. So Tyler Boyd, there's a name to watch during the
what round
the
are you
combine.
talking about for this guy?
He's a potential first for Minnesota.
Ooh.
With him being, with where we're picking at the end of the first, or if we trade back, get some more picks, get him at maybe the beginning of the second or something.
Now, I haven't started my draft profiles for the Viking age yet. I usually start those right after the combine, so that I have all the information as far as the 40 time, official heights, weights, all that kind of stuff. But I will be starting those right after the combine, so keep an eye out on the Viking age for those. We're going to be posting up on the Facebook page our social media question for next week, where we are going to ask you if you have any players that you're looking forward to at the scouting combine. For example, do you think that Josh Doxson should be a guy we keep an eye on? How about the linebacker Lee? Who is it that you think that could really make a case for themselves to be a Minnesota Viking at the combine? Let us know. But last week we had a kind of fun one where we went and we asked you guys the following question. We said on Sunday, which was, a while ago now because we didn't exactly have a lot of time to get things together and record this week, so we're running a little late. Sorry about that. But we asked you guys about the zombie apocalypse since The Walking Dead was having its season 6 mid-season premiere. And as you guys know, I'm a big fan of that program. We asked you which one member of the Minnesota Vikings, past or present, you would want to have on your zombie survival team. And we got some pretty interesting answers. John Dostal, one of our favorite commenters, says Terrence Newman, the dude's so old that the zombies will already think he's one of them, and he'll blend right in and live alongside you.
I'm not sure if that's how that works, but it's a solid answer.
It worked in Shaun of the Dead.
Well, yeah, there you go.
Thomas Buse says Harrison Smith reminds me of Daryl Dixon, so that would be wise to stick with him. Darren Roach says not Khalil. He'd create a gap through live bodies and let alone the dead ones. I'm kidding,
Wow.
of course. Adrian Peterson would be mowing down the dead bodies. He'd be the best one to have. Tommy Gunn says Harrison Smith. A native of my current state of Tennessee will surely help with knowing the ins and outs of the hills and valleys here, or at least know where the moonshiners can be found. Cheers to the zombie apocalypse. Brandon Alice, one of our favorites as well, says I'd probably have to go with Brian Robinson. Not only is he big and muscular, but he's an expert fisherman, so he could always catch dinner if we were running out of food. Austin Shepard also seems like an outdoorsman and probably owns plenty of guns and ammo.
There you go. That's a good answer. I like that.
I got probably your favorite answer right here, Mr. West. Corbin Johnson says Blair Walsh. He can kick footballs at the zombies' heads and decapitate them, but he will eventually miss a lot, and the zombies will kill the whole squad. Maybe Alan Page instead.
Wow.
The
We have a good fan base.
The missed footballs would be a distraction. They would go for the footballs, right, Adam?
They might.
Yeah.
Dorian Foley says hands down John Randall. Put out our black face paint and just start stomping mud holes in them zombies Steve Austin style. Eric Spink says Everson Griffin. He would talk trash to him while he slays them, sacks them, and then have a little sack daddy celebration. So many great answers on this. I'm going to keep reading because I'm just having fun.
Go for it.
Zachary Murphy says, well, Jared Allen can kill elk with a spear. Could be handy in combat and hunting.
Yeah, I'd want Jared Allen on my side.
That's exactly, I was hoping nobody said it. Jared Allen would be my favorite. He's crazy. Zombies are cool.
Says,
that sounds like fun.
Randy Moss. He'd show them his rear end and they'd all run away. Matt Massey says John Randall as well. Cameron Pohl says Bud Grant. He'd kick anybody's butt and he's tough as nails.
Here you go. I was wondering if we get a coach on there.
Because, let's be honest, Zimmer shoots guns, he's tough, he comes up with good plans. He probably would be the Rick Grimes that you would want if you were in a zombie apocalypse. And for you guys that aren't Walking Dead fans, of course Rick Grimes is the main character of The Walking Dead, and he is one heck of a tough guy, that's for sure.
Bud Grant's old school tough, though, Adam.
He is. He definitely is. But you see some of that toughness as well in Zimmer, so it's interesting. So, Mr. Smith, you were going to say Jared Allen. Did you have one, Mr. West?
I would go with Mike Zimmer because he's tough and, like you said, leader, would be able to rally, whatever kind of a group you have, motivated, come up with a plan of attack, and be able to, stick with it. This is what we're gonna do.
Absolutely. All right, so watch for our social media question next week. That's all I have for this week, but I believe, did Mr. Smith have a statement he wanted to give?
Bold statement time.
Okay, I have no bold statement because it's very slow and I've been off for a couple weeks. But I do have my dog Opie here, and I think she wants to give a shout out to everybody. If everybody wants to give my dog 2 seconds of their time, you ready? We're
I am
recording
ready.
right now. You have to do this. Speak, speak.
There
Almost.
we go.
Say it. Say it. There it is.
Nice. Sit, Ubu, sit. Good dog. And if you understand that reference, then you are old like me.
I believe, Adam, this is the first
I
time
know
we've ever
that's
had
all
a.
I have.
Season.
I was going to say,
Oh,
it's probably the first time we've ever had a dog on the show.
that's true. I believe it is our first actual invited dog guest. We've had some uninvited pooches in the past,
Mhm.
but never one that was been invited. All right, so we'll be back next week. What position do you feel like talking about? Wide receivers next week?
Sure, wide receivers.
Let's do it. Wide receivers. We'll talk about all those pass catchers,
We're going to
as
talk
well as
about. We're going to beat the Mike Wallace dead horse some more.
that's true. It's definitely true. And we'll be talking about some of the players that we're looking forward to at the combine. Much, much more as well. All the Vikings news that you can handle. We'll be shoving it down your throats, Viking style. And you can head on over to Facebook, give us a thumbs up over there, join in the conversation, which I know we haven't been very active with, but we're going to try to be a little bit better. Apologies there. Twitter, I don't know if we've been on Twitter in a little while, but we know it exists. And
we're there-ish.
Mr. West checks it once in a while, so if you leave something there, he'll get back to you.
Maybe.
You can check out my work on the Viking Age, or you can check out the Undead Walking site, which is where I read about The Walking Dead, which now, if you check your Yahoo sites, you might be able to see some of my stuff on the front page there. Pretty interesting.
Mhm.
But on that note, I'd like to thank everyone for listening, and remember to stay classy, Minnesota.